So let's doodle the square flower. It's one of my favorite motifs because it can be made to fit into any shape, from squares to rectangles to circles or diamonds. Here I have a square and 2 half-square triangles that we're going to create this square flower in. I usually start in the center of a square, and I start with a little circle. Then we're going to create the petals by coming straight up and off to the side. Now, I do not go all the way to the edge, and when I come back with the petals, I don't touch, the center circle, because I'm going to need to come back through those later. Now, I'm going to do a little bit nicer job in this next corner here. I like to fill in that whole corner. There we go. That's better. There's no such thing as perfect quilting or perfect doodling, but it'll all look perfect when you're done. Okay, so now if you're working on a very small scale, that may just be enough. But if your square is very large, you'll probably want to fill it in with some more details. So I'll go back, and I'm going to just go back in a counterclockwise direction. I'm not sewing over any previous line of stitching as I come around the center and into each of the petals. Now again, that may be enough for your quilt, but you still may want more design. So in that case, I would cross over and I would echo stitch all of these petals. So you can do anything from very simple to more complex, depending on how many layers you add to the square flower. Now we're going to use that same technique in a half square triangle. What I usually do there is I just do a half or a quarter of a square flower. So it's really not a square flower anymore, but I still call it that. Come up, I'm doing the exact same thing. This is really a beautiful way to fill half square triangles. Now you may want to just leave one and leave that blank, because that would look really great. Or you could add another one here. There's really 2 ways to do it. You could add starting with the spiral here, or you could start it with here. And we're going to just do that now. We're going to see how that looks. So it looks great. So I think you can see how versatile this motif is. Let's take it over the sewing machine and try sewing it out. Now we're going to stitch the square flower, and I've already drawn some squares on my fabric, and I've started with my curly Q knot. That's already completed. So we're going to spiral around a couple more times. Let's go twice more, and we're going to stitch. I'm going to stop and look, okay? And I'm going to head up. Create the first petal. We're going to stop before we get to the spiral because we need to come back through there later. We're going to get the corner, the entire corner here. Now remember, it doesn't matter what shape you need to fill. This motif will fit any shape at all. And you can do partial versions of this as well. So I'm continuing around. Sometimes you'll end up with more petals than others, and that gives your quilt variety. That's a good thing. Okay, I'm going to come to my last petal here. And again, if your square is very small, that may be enough. I want a little bit more design here. So I'm going to go back around the spiral, and this time I'm working counterclockwise to fill each of these with a little extra line. Be careful as you come around. Really, it's better to not cross over the stitches, because anytime you stitch on top of a previous line of stitching, again, if you're using very heavy weight, it's more important, but anytime you have a crossover, a trace over of your thread, it'll look like a focal point. Again, that's fine if it's your chosen focal point, but if it's not, you want to avoid it. I'm going to cross over here, and I'll show you how you can begin to echo stitch if that's what you'd like to do. You can echo stitch, and I just kind of tuck in a little bit around each petal. Now, and echo stitching really helps your motif pop, and it adds a little bit more fullness to it, especially as it gets larger. The motif may need more fullness. You could do one layer of echo stitching, or you could do multiple layers. So I'm going to continue around here and just finish this. Again, if there's a wide opening here, a gap, I would fill that in just a little bit. You don't have to go all the way into the whole petal. Just part of the way will be sufficient. Oops, I have to move my hands. So I needed to stop quilting. Anytime you need to move your hands, you must stop quilting. Okay, and I'm going to end with my little curly Q. It'll look cute there. So there we have a single square flower.